Hello, and thanks for joining me today on Geezers of Gear, episode number 239. Today's podcast is brought to you by AVL Media Group, your premier North American distribution partner. As an exclusive U.S. distributor for Midas Pro consoles, Lab Group and amplifiers, Lake processors, Tannoy installation speakers, Clark Technique, signal processing, Turbo Sound loudspeakers, and Aston microphones, they are committed to developing long-term business relationships with their partners at every level by providing outstanding pre- and post-sale service and support. AVL Media Group, your premier North American distribution partner. Visit avlmediagroup.com. And today's podcast is also brought to you by RZI Lighting, one of our very newest sponsors. RZI has been the trusted local source for all of your lighting needs in New Orleans for 25 years. They offer top brands and equipment, including rigging, staging, automated lighting, special effects, and more. Their on-site staff are skilled in repairing lighting equipment, and they have a wide inventory of new and pre-owned gear. Count on RZI for exceptional event production solutions. Need consumables like gel, gaff tape, or fluid? They've got you covered at their fully stocked physical store. Their knowledgeable staff are there to assist with all your audio, visual, and stagehand needs. Choose RZI for the best lighting solutions in New Orleans, where they've been illuminating events since 1999. Visit www.rzilighting.com. Well, hi again. And so, today's episode number 239, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I say every week, I just love getting to do this. I love that I'm in a position to do this and that I get to be your host and bring these great guests to you each and every week, twice a week now. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you giving a damn and listening to me every week, and also supporting all of our amazing sponsors. You know, again, it's not cheap to do this. It's not easy to do this. Not that we're brain surgeons or, changing the world or anything, but we do try to put forward the best podcast we possibly can in the best quality we can. We've expanded to video. We've expanded to all kinds of different things. So we do appreciate you supporting the sponsors. That keeps them coming to us and keep them supporting this podcast for you. Speaking of sponsors, this week, Elation won an award at NAB. I think it was for the KL Psych. And, Elation really dove deep on this market, on the TV and broadcast and film market. The KL series stuff is really good stuff. It's obviously, hits a price point. And so it's really nice to see them get that kind of recognition. I know Eric Loader looked really happy about it. I've seen his pictures and stuff on social media. So congratulations to our friends and sponsors at Elation. I'm very, very happy for you on that award and recognition. And I got to apologize again. I know we've been all over social media and stuff apologizing for this, but the Glenn Rogaman podcast, which actually I really enjoyed, it was a lot of fun. And we're still working really hard in the background to figure out a way to get you some of that content, if not all of it. But basically what happened is the recording platform that we use recorded it and then crashed, and somehow in crashing at the end, it corrupted the information, the video and audio. And so video and audio don't sync up. There's parts of audio cut out. There's part of video cut out. It's just really a disaster. And I've had 2 or 3 different companies working to try and recover it for the past week. And we will be able to recover part of it, but probably not all of it. And I haven't even told Glenn yet. So if you're listening, Glenn, I'm sorry. It really was a great talk. And it was during his vacation, too. He was in Portugal. And I always hate breaking up people's vacations anyways to do this podcast, to record it. But recording it and then losing it due to some technology failures is even worse. So we do plan to get part of it up at least. So for that, there was especially a really great discussion on one of my favorite topics, which is AI, especially AI as it relates to our industry. And by the way, speaking of AI, I heard the funniest thing today. I was having a conversation with a technology company about AI, and there's a new tech out related to AI. Get this, it's called AIEO. Reminds me of a song we sang when we were kids, right? So more on AI in a couple minutes here. Actually, no, I'll keep going on AI right now. I'm going to try and update you each and every week with some new stuff that I'm figuring out or learning or hearing about AI. I know that I dive more into it than most of you in the industry, and that's okay. I'm not saying everybody should be using AI right now. I do think everyone should be aware. Everyone should not be afraid of it. You should probably find ways to embrace it into your daily grind, and to make things easier for you. Know that it's coming, and like I keep saying, you either get on the bus or the bus will run you over. And so it's obviously sort of ever evolving thing as it relates to our industry. And I get it. I mean, I understand the complications and the potential job losses and changes to people's income and livelihood. But we can't put the genie back in the bottle, as I keep saying. One industry that I've been reading about a little bit is translators. If you think about translators, that's probably an industry that's nearly over at this point, primarily because of AI. But probably really because of AI, because until AI, you needed translators for all kinds of things, translating documents, translating live conferences or speeches. And so that is moving very quickly and becoming replaced very quickly. But apparently complex and nuanced literary translation is still predominantly human driven. And so when you talk about documents and things in our industry that are technology, that is stuff that probably AI isn't going to quickly replace. But yeah, translation is a big one that's getting hit. A couple of the things that I've seen recently, one is news that Microsoft, who has been going deep on AI up until now, continues to invest. They just invested $1.5 billion into a company, an Emirati company, called G42. Not exactly sure what they did, because I didn't feel compelled to go down that rabbit hole, but feel free to check it out. Another interesting one is deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have been hearing about this. There was one with AOC last week where she's just losing her mind because there's some kind of a porn image going around or something of her head, and it's a pretty good deep fake from what I've heard. I haven't seen it. But there's full-on porn videos with that would really fool you into believing that really is whoever they say it is in the video. And you always know that porn is going to find their way into any new technology pretty quickly. It's like that. I think I've mentioned this before, but I saw a meme about cell phones, and it showed them starting out really, really big on one side, and then it was going down, dropping, and it showed like the timeline, the years. And then when it got to its smallest, it said, streaming porn becomes a thing. And all of a sudden you see the phones getting larger again. But it's true, porn, when it comes to things like compression, video compression, and just delivery of video, higher resolution, better streaming bandwidths, better speed, internet speed. Porn drives a lot of those things. It really does. And porn pays for a lot of those things because they've got pretty deep pockets, these porn tech companies. So let's clean that up a little bit, but just a little bit. And now we're going to talk about Patrick Dearson. So Patrick Dearson and I recently had a conversation talking a little bit about AI. And I just kind of gave him some information that he didn't know and told him, here's how you could use it for some different things. And if you know Patrick, you know that that's going to get him deeply into a rabbit hole. And so if you follow him on social media, you've probably already seen it. But if you don't, please go follow Patrick Dearson on social media, because if you look at his Instagram posts that he's made of like his dogs carrying machine guns and all these weapon, I don't know what they're called, but belts and backpacks and stuff, riding sharks through the ocean and like in attack mode. And it's this real apocalyptic looking thing. And it's just awesome. He's created like a whole bunch of these things that just look, and there's one where a bunch of Frenchies are in a band. Just really, really cool stuff that he's created. Completely useless, probably. Like, I don't know how you'll ever use it. He'll probably find a way to get it onto a t-shirt or something, or a company logo. But, and so he's discovered all of this through Vectorworks has an AI visualizer, I guess. And this is where he's creating a bunch of these images. But, check that out. And if you haven't seen the Vectorworks AI stuff yet, you might want to get into that as well. So moving on, today's guest, again, it is episode number 239. And we're extremely happy to welcome back Jeff Cranfill, who's been on the show before. He was on the podcast in April of sort of the pre-pandemic year, 2019. Unless you talk to some people, like even Glenn Rogaman last week said, oh no, we knew all about COVID in 2019 and we were developing UVC products to get rid of the germs and stuff. So, but yeah, he was on back in 2019, April 2019, episode 15. You can find that, of course, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or geezersofgear.com, which is our website that is up now. It's nothing terribly special, but it does have every single one of our podcast episodes on there in audio only. And you can listen to or download those for free right from our website. There's going to be more stuff on our website in the future. We're actually talking about some of those things this morning in a meeting. But so Jim's initial, a lot of these older podcasts, by the way, are audio only. We just started doing video in, I think, August or September of last year, 2023. So anything prior to that is going to be audio only. So to read Jim's bio, Jim founded Special Event Services in 1986 with, Jeff. Why am I calling him Jim all of a sudden? So Jeff Cranfill founded Special Event Services back in 1986 with Jim Brammer in Brammer's Winston-Salem garage. Special Event Services is an industry leader in audio, lighting, video design, staging, and live event production for businesses, religious organizations, and major recording artists. Jeff worked as a musician and technician for bands, recording studios, and production companies across the USA before starting his own production company in his hometown of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Since 1987, Jeff has provided scenic, show, and lighting design for Special Event Services clients worldwide. Jeff has also toured with many of these clients as their lighting director for over the past 30 plus years. This also includes being the lighting designer and director on several music videos and television broadcasts that SES provides production for. Jeff is also the owner of Oak Valley Productions, which is a recording studio that he operates from his home in North Carolina. OVP provides audio and video recording services for music and spoken word, along with musician services, producing, mixing, and mastering. So I am really looking forward to catching up again with Jeff. Nice guy, smart guy. Really enjoyed our last podcast. And let's get this going. Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
Little blip here this morning on our, or this afternoon, I guess, on our technology. Between us, somehow we couldn't get audio to work. So we must be a couple of lighting guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We're showing our true colors right now. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's working good now though, so I can hear you and you sound good and you look fabulous.
Oh, well, it's the lighting.
Representing with the SES shirt on. I like it. I like it. We got the logo in the background here. How new is
Yeah.
this building?
We moved in, well, during our, as some people call it, COVID. We call it the unpaid vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the building was being built, and right around 2019, and of course we had only waited, 20 some years for our dream building,
Yeah.
just to start getting phone calls that, hey, by the way, we're shutting down. We're not going to do anything.
Ooh.
And we got some great advice from our builders and some other folks who said, you know, don't stop, finish. And so we actually finished it with no, and the I guess some of the positive notes of that are we didn't have to get out of our old building as well. We just sort of a truck at a time moved gear over there,
Yeah.
and it gave us a chance to really work on how we were putting things inventory squared away. We did it with an extremely small group of people that stuck in there with us.
Yeah, I apologize. We got the tech working now, I hope. So, yeah, you were just telling us about this building and how it was being built during COVID, and you got some good advice to, instead of stopping construction like I think so many people did, because that was a scary time. I mean, so I was constructing a web platform at the same time because we were replatforming my company. And, it wasn't what you paid for this building, but it was pushing, 7 digits or whatever, right? Like it was a
Mhm.
real number. And and again, everyone was like, you should stop, just keep whatever cash you have, stop, stop, stop. And I just said, no, we got to push ahead. Like it's the only way to do it right now, because you want to come out of COVID with something to sell. You don't want to come
Yeah.
out of COVID in trouble. So,
Well, I think, and the one of the big payoffs for it is I don't think we anticipated how busy we would be,
yeah,
um, coming out. And so we were so landlocked in our old building. We'd been there for so long, and just we couldn't move efficiently. So
yeah,
the good part was when everybody called at once and said, "Load the trucks, let's go." Well, we were able to manage that pretty well.
that's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it had to be a fun time too, because you're loading trucks from the new docks in the new
Oh
building with
yeah.
all
Yeah.
that extra space for prepping stuff, and yeah, it had to be
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I think we're on. I don't know exactly, but I think we're on version 2 or 3 of the rearranging in the
Yeah,
shop, because we've got enough room now. You work one workflow for a while, and then you decide, let's move all of these over here and
yeah.
make more room for things. And
You haven't already outgrown it then?
actually, we have.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was, just this past weekend. We had a lot of festivals come out. It looked very empty, and 3 days later, you couldn't see the floor again.
Oh
So,
boy.
yeah,
It's
so
it that is such a challenge for all of you guys. I mean, our
yeah,
industry, every time I go visit someone's shop, uh it seems to be the biggest challenge right now, and you can't just go get twice as big a building because you
yeah.
don't know that this is going to keep going at the same rate, right?
Well,
So,
and it's funny, when we went out to see this one, and it was just concrete and steel,
yeah.
and we were leaving, and Jim turns to me and says, "You think we're building too big of a building?" I'm like, you know, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
the thought occurred to
Yeah.
me, and of course, it's not even 2 years later, and you're sitting there walking around going, "Where can we put this?"
Well, especially
So
having
yeah,
that thought while you're going through this whole COVID thing. And we don't know, you know, who knew exactly when there was going to be a live event, and
yeah,
what were the regulations going to be like? Were you going to have to do a year at 1,000 people maximum and then another year at 5,000 or whatever? And
yeah,
by then, half the artists are getting jobs at Amazon. They can't
yeah.
sustain it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we were fortunate to be able to figure out a lot of things during that time. And we helped with a drive-in theater locally in town that was just a pop-up two-screen theater. We did the projectors and the FM transmitters, and then they wanted to have live shows out there, and we did them actually via FM transmitters to your car. to only take it to what I think we probably hold the record on the biggest concert of that level. We did a couple of shows at Charlotte Speedway with the Avett Brothers, and we set up a stage underneath their big giant LED wall.
Huh.
Put the stage on the track, so there was the band underneath it. Brought in a camera company, a video company to IMAG it all onto there and to stream it, and all the audio was sent out via FM transmission, and pretty much anywhere within about a 200-300 mile radius rented every pickup truck there was in North Carolina and South Carolina. And these folks set up in the beds of their pickups with these amazing speaker systems and their chairs and tables, and they sat and enjoyed the Avett Brothers via FM radio.
How many people actually showed up at that one? Do you know?
Um, I don't remember the number of cars. I don't know how many people were in all of the cars, but
Yeah.
I do know it was I want to say that somewhere over 1,500 to 2,000 cars.
Wow.
So
That's
there's
a
a lot of
lot.
people. Yeah, they all parked in the infield of Charlotte Motor Speedway,
That's cool.
and of course there were several more thousand on the streaming. And
That's
so
cool.
those are little things we learned to do during COVID.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
you
it
know,
was, I've said it before on this podcast, but it was sort of it was something that was kind of depressing to me. Like when people were trying to do these drive-in movie concert things,
hmm
and you would see like 20 cars and maybe 80 people or something, and they had like, sometimes they had these boxes marked out where you couldn't go outside your box, your little group could stay. And then there was other ones where you couldn't even leave your car, and I'm thinking, where are you going to the bathroom? Like what's
yeah.
going on here? And I don't know. Like to me, I was just like, this ain't working. This isn't going to work. But I guess when you can scale it to the size of a speedway, it's totally a different model at that point, right?
Well, it was, and I think that what really was one of the great things about it was just to see how inventive and how resilient the average person is that
Yeah.
goes to a concert.
Yeah.
Um, Regardless, of whatever the restrictions were, these folks made the most out of it, and
Yeah.
I think that's the thing to take away from it is
Yeah.
that here we are in this business of where it can't be big enough, it can't be bright enough, it can't be loud enough, we can't have a big enough LED wall, and these folks are making it work.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that was so much fun to watch with our industry was just, we're a figure it out industry. And,
Yeah.
like one of the other ones that I thought was pretty cool, I can't remember exactly who it was. It might have been Christian Jackson. Somebody in Seattle did an EDM concert out of the back of their shop. So they opened their
Mhm.
roll up doors, and all the lights were set up in all their roll up doors and their docks, and cars just all pulled up behind their warehouse. And it was really cool. I don't think they made any money, but I think they just had fun putting on a show.
Yeah.
You
We
know?
did that. We did a similar thing. We did a, a YouTube stream for not only an EDM set of shows, but we just locally we had emptied out our old building,
Hmm.
and it's a beautiful old tobacco warehouse with beautiful brick walls. And someone made mention about, have you thought about anything we could do to help the local musicians? I'm like, I absolutely have. And we started this little YouTube series, and we went in there and set up a few cameras and some gear, and we videotaped these folks playing their songs, and mostly originals that
Yeah.
did, and posted it on YouTube with contact information on how you could get in touch with these artists.
Oh, that's cool.
And a lot of them actually got some revenue out of it or got some
Yeah.
work out of later dates and things. So
I
it's just
actually,
another thing we could do.
yeah, I enjoyed some of those like collaborations where the drummer was like in New York and the singer was
Yeah.
in London and the whatever, and you couldn't really do it live because of the latency,
Mhm.
but they would record it and then put it out right after they recorded it or whatever. And I enjoyed a bunch of those. Like some really cool sort of mega groups got put
Yeah.
together that way, where it was the drummer from this band and the singer from this band, and they recorded, a song together. And what's his name? Tommy Shaw from Styx was doing songs like almost every day where he was just sitting in his living room with an acoustic guitar and his dog. And, he would do a beautiful Styx song or
Mhm.
whatever and just do it live on YouTube or Facebook or something. And so some of those were kind of fun. It was better than watching Netflix or whatever for a lot of people, I guess. But yeah, I
Well,
mean,
I think it's just a part of us. We all have that need, and we gotta figure it out some way. We had for the longest time, we have a rehearsal space in the new building, so
mm,
we've got the ability to have a rigging grid in there and put up a relatively large tour system.
mm,
And we took one of our tours and we put the entire lighting rig and the video wall rig up, made it work.
yeah,
Had everything turned on, and basically anybody that just wanted to toy around with a console or play some videos or whatever else we could think of.
yeah.
We just had to have gear out and turned on.
Good for
It's
you. You
yeah,
know, I don't remember if you got involved or not, but when we did that Red Alert Restart thing, uh, the how happy people were, companies were to work for free and go light
I
up a
mean,
building in red. It was so exciting and so much fun to be a part of. But people were just so happy to put on their show blacks and go out and program a console lighting up a building or a bridge or whatever it was. And it was just cool. Nobody was making any money, but it was
yeah.
just cool. It was fun, and people were so happy to be doing something again that
Yeah,
involved lights.
we sent out a few hundred fixtures throughout the city of Winston-Salem. We basically lit up the whole city of Winston-Salem
Yeah, yeah.
red, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah, no, that was fun. Every year in September when those videos start coming back up in my feed, I'm like, yeah, God, that was interesting. I remember as we were doing it, I was like, you know what? This is costing me money, and it's probably the most incredible thing I was ever a part of. Like it's just
Yeah,
incredible. It not just the art of it all, but just the camaraderie and pulling it all together as quickly as we did and doing it. It was just really a cool moment for me
yeah.
and for the industry too.
For us, it was great because it was amazing how many people wanted to be a part of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people just kept calling me, going, "Hey, if you need help, setting up, doing whatever,
That's so cool.
I'm here." And so that
Yeah.
was really great. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. And I mean, we were getting calls left and right. Hey, we've got fixtures. If anybody needs anything, let us know.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it was insanely cool. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it again. So you've been in the industry, I think, 45 years now, right?
Yeah.
You've been doing this a
Yeah.
while. I don't want to go through your life story because people can go back to, I think it's episode 15 where we had you on before, but um, you started as a musician, much like I did. And
Mhm.
except you call yourself a professional musician. Although I got paid,
Well, I got paid.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't have called myself a professional musician though. I got paid, but
Mhm.
that's about as professional as it got, getting money at the end of the night. Um, and so you and your still partner Jim started the company in '86. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
And you're still together now, which is incredible because partnerships like marriages don't generally last a lifetime, and so it's nice when they do. That's for sure. Um, so I read a stat, and I just wanted to find out if this is true because it just sounds insane. I read a stat that SES worked on 46 tours, 850 shows, entertaining more than 7.25 million people in 2019.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate. We were
How's that even
2019 would have
possible?
been
That's massive.
yeah, 2019 would have been at that time the biggest year of
Yeah.
SES, knowing that we were going to roll into 2020 with the biggest ever. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
But
then that changed.
yeah, I mean, well, the thing about, SES, you mentioned Jim. I think one of the things that has maintained us for this many years is we both do what we're good at,
Yeah.
and it's not the same thing. So,
That's always
uh,
so perfect when that happens.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and and it is true that kind of stay in your lane, that, do what you do,
Yeah.
and and you trust there's someone else that's handling the other part. Um, that especially heavily credited to Jim about all of the other companies that came post SES that
Yeah.
are now coming under the new heading of Concert Stuff Group.
Yeah. Which I want to talk to
Um,
you about that one too. But
yeah, that when you start looking at how many people it is and how widespread we are, I did not know that stat honestly, but I wouldn't be surprised about it that
that's an
we
incredible
managed.
stat.
Yeah.
Back to the partnership thing. So you say, how like it's a great partnership because, your skill set or the things that you're
Hmm.
really good at and where his start and, it's peanut butter and chocolate or whatever. Um, I had a similar business partnership, and the thing that went wrong in mine, it was amazing until that time. But what went wrong was the partner and the partner's spouse became envious of my half. And it was weird. It
Hmm.
was like my half suddenly looked more appealing than the other half. And I said, "You want to switch?" No, but this isn't reasonable. This isn't fair. And I mean, it wasn't a 50-50 partnership either. It was just like suddenly they wanted, their dinner plus my lunch and breakfast too, and it was like, wait a
Hmm.
sec, this ain't going to work. So I think you're exactly right until, I don't know, until somebody either forgets to trust their partner that they've spent all these years with, or
What's important?
yeah, trust is
It's
big.
paramount. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other part about that is too, you d- I hope at least everyone, especially younger people that are getting in this business, get into it because they love it.
Yeah.
Um, Thinking you're going to get into it to get rich, being greedy obviously never got anybody anywhere,
Yeah.
and that's something that we don't do. We don't. That's never come into contention. So if someone had something more than the other, well, it's still the same family. It's still the same.
Yeah.
It's still it started in a garage, and who would have dreamed that what it
Yeah.
became? I know I didn't.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, I know I can be proud of
Yeah.
my contributions to it,
No
and my
kidding.
contributions to some things are less than others,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then others might be more than others, and I just I just think that's people doing what they're good at,
Yeah.
and and creatively communicating everything, making sure that even if this doesn't interest that person, we'll still go over the details of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's everything. There's just nothing about this business that I don't take an interest in. I'm not the kind of person that's just going to sit behind a lighting console
Yeah.
and that's all I do.
Yeah.
Every little thing, and that's why all of the different entities that have come out of it, yeah, I've set up chairs, I've built a stage, I've built a roof, I've done all that stuff,
Yeah.
and I was and typically one of the first people to do it. As those companies were being built,
Yeah.
did I want to stay as an active part of that? Well, no, not really. So those have become other companies that are doing well on their own, and there's a possibility maybe tomorrow I get a phone call and it's, hey, can you come look at this roof and help with something? Or can Well, absolutely, I will.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the other part about it, is not drawing those lines. I don't think we've ever been any, and when I say we, I'm talking about not just Jim and myself, a lot of people. I don't think any of us have ever been that's not my job
Yeah.
type people.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that's
and we wouldn't
amazing.
and we
It's obviously
wouldn't ever
working.
ask somebody to do something we wouldn't do ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Did you guys did anything change coming out of COVID as far as like you learned something during COVID and then became a different company because of it or stuff like that? Like, did you find different ways to shape your business based on what you went through during COVID, other than keeping, 29 months of reserve capital available or whatever COVID taught
Yeah,
us.
I think so. I think one of the biggest things, that just coming out of it helped was having the time to figure out how to structure certain things. I don't know that there's any kind of management model that a business like this fits under. I think pretty much anybody that has a production company would say, well, management is done trial by fire.
Yeah.
It's okay, that doesn't work. We're moving on to another plan. Um, I think there was enough time to really go through that. The other part was to really analyze and look at everything we have. Gear wise, it was said years and years ago that we'll never own anything that we have to apologize for.
Well, that's a good
And
policy. I like that one.
and and so it also gave us the ability to think about what we have, how diverse, especially in lighting, where lighting had become the thing of you're reading people's riders and you're accommodating riders, and you get into this habit of this is my method over and over and over again. And the next thing you know, you own 32 of every kind of brand fixture there is made.
Yeah.
And the next tour goes out and they use pieces and parts of it. And the next tour goes out and uses more pieces and parts. And then you're sitting around with oddball numbers of stuff going, I can't do anything with this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, thinking smarter about big picture views of that. Um,
And
we do
so what's that
all
mean though, Jeff? Like, did you minimize the number of products that you're carrying and just go deeper on them?
we did
Yeah,
we
it
did
sounds like a smart policy.
we it's kind of an old school philosophy, back
Yeah.
in the day
Yeah.
when I say back in the day, I'm talking the analog days.
Yeah.
um, you kind of owned, whether it was audio or lighting, you owned the piece from the company that you like to have.
Yeah.
And whoever was coming to town to do a show or were needing your services, well, they just used that it was brand X speaker cabinet today, and whatever company they use tomorrow, it was brand Y.
Yeah.
um, and so at that, I can remember back to those days and think we had these consoles, these speakers, these lights, these dimmers that, and you didn't hear someone say, "Oh, I can't use that."
Yeah.
And so kind of, try to adapt some of that philosophy of it, to be able
Makes
to
a lot of
say,
sense.
here's the brands that we carry, here's what we have of their stock. Um, Surely that's good enough for you to make something work out of it.
Eh,
And so far, so good with that.
Well, you know what? I mean,
Yeah.
it gives you a better relationship with your suppliers because you have less
Hmm.
suppliers who are maximizing your dollars, I guess. And instead
Yeah.
of having 30 of each moving light, you have 300 of one or 500 or whatever the number
Right.
is. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that Huntley Christie did really well with Martin doing it that way
Hmm.
too. And I mean, I know now he's a lot more diverse than just Martin, but he still goes heavy on Martin and he still gets a special deal that we all know he's paying less than everybody else for Martin stuff,
Sure.
even though Martin will tell you he's not. And so I agree with that. And it used to be, like you said, back in the day, you were a high end house or you were a Martin house or you were a
Yeah.
Claypacky house or Verilight, but you weren't all 17 of them. And,
No.
I
Well, you
like
couldn't
that.
be.
Yeah.
I, I think the other part too is I got asked this question at LDI this year. Someone said, "What have you seen that was interesting?"
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Well, it's all interesting." I said, "The biggest thing is there's so much of it like each other."
Yeah.
And someone said, "Yeah, I've noticed that." And I'm like, "Well, don't. That's not a bad thing.
I think it's a really good
Understand
thing.
that these companies are making good products and they perform well. So this was a grand opportunity to kind of get that more allegiance back to being I'm this kind of house, that kind of house, because there's several manufacturers that make all the things that you might need for the basic
Exactly.
staples of,
Yeah.
of putting stuff
Yeah. A
together
spot, a
like that.
wash, a beam, like all
Yeah,
of the different parts of the
Yeah, I mean,
family or whatever.
in in earlier years, it was just whose parkland do you like?
Yeah.
But now I mean, I don't, and I never thought of it. I never thought of moving lights that way, that we would get into such a, I guess, formed type of model. But there's manufacturers out there making good spot fixtures, good wash fixtures, good strobe fixtures. Well, they're kind of the three start to everything.
Yeah.
And so it's funny how I can look at it now, these decades later, and go, well, we're just back to whose parkland do we like the best?
Yeah, but it's such a
Essentially.
big topic. It's a really really important topic because we got so far away from that, and unfortunately or fortunately or whatever you want to call it, but today or recently and probably still today, I think lighting designers decide what lights are in your shop as much as anyone does,
Oh,
because they're like,
absolutely.
"Hey, for this tour I've got to have this fixture." And they'll convince you through prodding and whatever to put that into your inventory, or else you might lose that show or that tour or whatever. And I understand that. I understand they want what they want and they need what they need, but at the same time, I don't know that that's really sustainable. Like I
Yeah.
think it's a bad, I think it's a bad way to do it, to have a dozen of everything in your stock and not 200 of any one
hmm
thing. It's dangerous.
Well, I think we fell victim to that, not out of anyone doing anything wrong,
Yeah.
or not. It was just the fact of business was rolling in, things were getting bigger, things were more and more and more and more. And so at one point it became easier just to sort of say yes to every rider
Yeah.
that came
Yeah.
across. And then we had time to sit down and talk to people and say, well, hey, if we had this instead of this, would you use it? And you find out, yes, I would.
Yeah.
And I think part of that comes from, I hope I'll probably get some people that don't like this one, but some of my thinking about where we are saying that people make so many of the same things as far as manufacturers go. I think we've really quit. A lot of companies have quit making sort of their one trick pony
Hmm.
type lights,
Yeah.
and there was a really long time during moving light technology where every, like what you said earlier about the designer says, I have to have this.
Yeah.
And I saw it more in that type stuff where it was the things that was, oh, it does this gobo thing that no other fixture does, and I have to have it for my shows.
I know, and we're
Um,
we're all a bunch of product gear nerds. So
oh
somebody
yeah,
comes into your shop and goes, "But ours has 12 gobos,"
right,
and
right,
suddenly you're like, "Ooh, I only had 11 before."
yeah,
But yeah,
that's
it's
sort
so
of what I
true.
mean. It was that where we were buying the one trick ponies. That's what we were doing,
Hmm. Yeah.
and now, not just one manufacturer, but several manufacturers. You go through and you look at their spot fixtures, their wash fixtures, etc., and you go, well, these are good.
They all are.
They're good. They're
Yeah.
good lights.
Yeah.
Can you design a show around it? Well, are you a good designer?
Yeah. You know what,
Because,
Jeff? I'm not putting
yeah,
anybody down, but
yeah,
you could have a killer looking lighting rig made up of American DJ fixtures today, you know.
based on what I saw
And
this year,
again,
you're good.
that ain't putting
Yeah,
down American DJ because
no,
they're like the little step brother of Elation. But you could absolutely have a killer rig, and it would perform well, and it would probably be damn reliable too.
hmm
And that's just where we're at right now. The problem is though, like I think in a sense we've become a little bit boring, you know. Uh, the
well,
industry
I,
from a standpoint of
I,
supply, the gear anyways, is that
yeah,
it's all good, but it's a little vanilla.
it is, and I'm going to say not all the credit goes to this factor for, but for what I see, um, with a lot of designs this day, I think the driving force about that is the fact that video has taken over lighting's job in so many things.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I go out and I see some great tours and great shows and I think that how someone almost had to battle against the LED wall with lighting to make a stand and be purposeful and make a difference.
Yeah.
Um, you know, again, that's takes a level of creativity that you got to really think through, different than just how many lights do I want.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of that being done, but it just it's the big elephant in the room when you walk in and there's something that's 60 feet wide by 40 feet tall. Well, they don't make lights that big,
Yeah. Well, and then there's also
and
the brightness battle,
yeah,
and it's getting
yeah,
to a point where like I can't even stand at front of house and look at the stage,
yeah,
without getting fatigue, because it's like a really bright screen and a whole bunch of gazillion lumen
yeah.
lights, and it's just getting so ridiculously bright.
Yeah,
Everything.
a few years back, I was teaching a class, and someone asked me, said, "Well, what do you do first when you're talking to someone about a design and trying to figure out what it is they want?" I was explaining to them in this course about being able to speak musician talk versus lighting talk versus tech talk,
Hmm.
because the people bringing you their vision maybe don't have that much tech savvy knowledge, and so they're trying to draw this picture in the air to you that you're trying to decipher. And I said, "Oh, well, it's usually a good way to break the ice on that is just ask them how big they want their LED wall."
Yeah. Yes.
Because I said that's the
Everything
one
else
thing
you
they've
just build
thought
around
about.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Everything else
that's the
just
one
gets
thing
built.
that they've considered is like, "Oh, I've
Isn't
got to
that
have this much
incredible?
LED wall." Yeah,
Like video used to be secondary. It used to be iMag, and that was it. It was a
yeah.
necessity. You put them out by the sound wings or whatever,
Mhm.
and you just showed the band bigger for the guys in the cheap seats. But now it's just such an integral part of the show. Uh,
And I don't it's okay. I mean, I'm not knocking it.
yeah.
I think it's one of these things that you do have to really rethink how you're going to do your lighting design.
Hmm.
And it may be that you don't put up as many light. I see lighting rigs that are seem to be smaller now,
Hmm.
and I think, well, that's probably because a lot of the budget went to video, and there's really great content, and it looks great, and the show looks great, and the lighting's doing its job.
But I'd hate to
Yeah,
see us go to the sphere design, where it's like all
yeah.
all video and key lights.
Well,
It's white key
I think,
lighting and
yeah,
video. That's it.
yeah. Well, I don't know if how many content creators we got to keep that going,
Yeah, true, huh?
but maybe a
Yeah,
lot these days. I don't
yeah.
know. But no, you're right. And some of the more refreshing shows that I've seen lately are ones that don't have a video element, or ones that use a video element sparingly.
Hmm.
I mean, you know, I tell people all the time, if you use a good product as far as LED walls go, if you turn it off, it's just black. So it doesn't hurt
Yeah,
anything to be back there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
So
true. It's just a
I do like
backdrop.
that element of watching shows where I can see the designer was thinking, okay, we've worn them out for a few songs now. Let's give them a break.
Yeah,
Turn the LED wall off and just have a rock and roll lighting show.
yeah,
Yeah. I like
yeah.
that.
And I'll get accused of being a traditionalist or old fashioned or whatever when it comes to some of these things. But, for me, video is just another element. It shouldn't be something that just completely takes your eyes away from either the band or the rest of the
Hmm.
show or whatever it is. It's just one of the elements of the show, right?
I
And
try to remind people often it's just the backdrop.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's where the
Or
backdrop used to hang,
yeah, it
so
was just
yeah.
the backdrop. It's not anymore. Like
Yeah.
right now, it's
So
like,
it's still back. It's still all the way upstage,
yeah,
typically.
true,
Uh,
huh? True.
yeah.
So, I want to learn about this concert stuff thing because I know you say nobody gets into our
Okay.
industry to make money, but here you are with however many companies under that
Yeah.
banner. So I don't know if you did like a lot of these. Like I saw there's a chair company, which I want to
Hmm.
understand the motivation behind that, and a barrier company, and um, certainly I can understand the festival company, but I want to talk about that one as well. You've got tour buses, you've got uh, trucking, you've got fabrication. I know I'm
Okay.
missing probably 10 things, but
Well, first, but I always tell everybody it's not about make it. It's about getting. You're not necessarily going to get filthy rich, but you'll make money.
Yeah.
Um, it's a lot of it's birthed out of the early years of SES, where at the beginning, um, Jim has a lot of contacts as far as concert promoters, people like that go. He was in concert originally as well, and extremely knowledgeable about how that end of the business works.
Hmm.
A lot of these things were born out of that. Trucking, SET, Special Event Transportation, trucking came along originally as a way to service SES. Just because at some point you get so many trucks, um, permits and licensing, all the things you have to do for that becomes a company, because you're hiring all of these people to run all these trucks and
Hmm.
drivers and everything else. But as time went on, well, there was no, it wasn't like a rule that it had to be SCS gear in a SET truck,
Hmm.
and trucking flourished because of that.
Yeah.
Because very smart about putting the business together with what you call real rock and roll drivers, truck drivers that understand how to get back there and help load the truck and make sure the gear is safe and it gets from point A to point B in one piece and things like
Yeah.
that. The chairs, same thing. Prior to chairs, we received a call to do some ground cover. It was basically build some plywood roads for the Steel Wheels tour.
Hmm.
And Jim had a great vision to go out and buy several hundred sheets of plywood. And here we go off to a stadium, and we built plywood roads for forklifts to drive on. And of
Interesting.
course, that over the years then turned into a product that was called Inca Mat, that you could roll out over the field, and it could keep the grass a little alive longer. And of course, then into what you see now, the plastic flooring. So that that's a company called Field Protection Agency. The same thing with the stages and the roofs. SES originally had nothing major, mind you, just a typical standard old 4-post roof and stage. And it was back when we would go out and do some of these festivals, we would drive the trucks in, and the same people built the stage, built the roof, then hung the audio in the bay and the lighting. Then we ran the festival as the engineers, and then reversed all the way. So we were everything,
Yeah.
and again, that became something bigger just through Jim going out there and working hard to get the business for these things with bigger roofs, bigger structures, um, and it's just continued to grow and grow and grow.
But
But
that's a rental company, not a manufacturer, right? Like you're not making
well,
stages,
yeah,
or
well,
you
that's
are.
part of the fabrication company builds all of these things.
Oh, really?
Yes, for G2.
So
Um,
you're building your own stages, mobile stages too.
no, not mobile stage. That's
Oh,
all
okay.
stage line
Okay.
stuff. But there's a need for mobile stages, so there's a mobile stage division of G2 as well,
Yeah.
that has the different sizes and varieties of stage line stages.
Can they deliver faster than stage line? Because they
Well, I
seem pretty
guess
back ordered
depending on
right
where
now.
they're at.
Yeah, they
Oh,
seem.
you mean as far as that? Well, everybody only owns so many, but
Yeah,
there's I don't know how many people have them throughout the United States.
yeah, yeah. No, I
And
know a couple
but
people who are waiting for stage line stages for quite some time now,
oh,
from
okay,
the manufacturer, right?
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think like everything
and
else, they're just backed up a bit.
but and all of these things, of course, that rolls into needing alliances with the proper engineering companies and everyone else. Um, and so it's a lot of work and a lot of people, and so every one of these entities, even though maybe the smallest, simplest version of it was originally done by SES or a part of SES, it all fortunately grew.
Well, it
It's
all
just a
sounds very organic too. Like it's not like you went out looking for a hole in the market and went, "We're gonna create a business doing this." It was that you were already using the stuff for the most part.
well, I think the key was is that first of all, not shying away from something.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with saying I'm an audio company or I'm a lighting company. Um, I guess if someone wanted to ask, how did we start? One of the we kind of owned a little bit of audio and maybe at some point more lights, but then we needed more audio than lights. So you see what I'm saying? We ping pong back and forth over the
yeah,
years about which one do you have more of.
yeah,
Uh, and then of course the same thing was when video projectors and then it was getting into some video gear. Um, when you're sitting in the middle of North Carolina and that's what you're doing for your livelihood, but someone calls and says, "Hey, if you're willing to come set up, you know, 10,000 chairs in a football stadium,"
yeah,
well, you go set up the chairs.
yeah,
You,
yeah.
you
That
you
makes
don't just
sense.
tell somebody, "Oh, I just do audio." No, you go set up the chairs. It's at least I should say in our thinking,
Yeah,
that's what you do.
yeah.
But out of this, what you create is a one-stop shop,
Hmm.
and I think that's the biggest thing to look for is that we get a lot of the things I do anymore um, are basically large format one-offs. And these can be, we've got one coming up just next year that will be in this, well, still call it the Superdome, but in New Orleans. But um, we'll go in and we will build a stage and a roof, and we will do all the audio, the lighting, all the video, uh, delay towers, anything that needs to be done in that football stadium.
Mm,
That's the same exact thing that's going on right now, coming up in Buffalo in a few days with the Luke Combs tours, where they'll be next.
mm.
Um, that's we're there in that case. It's staging, audio, and lighting, and you know it's one phone call,
Yeah,
and that's sort of where trucks and buses and that buses came along in the same sense of let's help out these people, these artists with some buses, and it worked. And
yeah,
so now it's okay, go get some more buses. Um, that we have a lot of different. I guess everybody's got a lot of different irons in the fire at one time, but to me, the big payoff is when we all have the same ones, in the same fire. And that's what you see on things like the Luke Combs tour or what will be coming up this year on the Hootie and the Blowfish tour.
yeah.
Um,
So
that that type.
do you promote these companies outside of SES clients? Like in other words, could could Christie or Four Wall or somebody come get buses or trucking or whatever from you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Interesting.
that happens. There's I don't keep up very well with everything some of these companies are doing, but I could like this past year, SET, the trucking division, they handled the Eagles tour,
Hmm.
and
Interesting.
I don't even know who all the vendors were on that, but they were all
Yeah.
riding around in SET trucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. And so are they all shared ownership? Like is it basically you and Jim in this top company and that top
Well,
company owns 100% of all the other companies, or do you
no,
have
it's
owners
it's
within?
it's owners within, and it's divvied up. And the same, and we have another division I just thinking of too that it's integration,
Yeah.
where that has also been a big part here in the last few years. You were talking about during the COVID time, integration was
Yeah. Carrying the
busier than ever.
Yeah, carrying the weight for everybody. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like
which was great. But
Solotech. I think Solotech was telling me that they were at 50% of their revenue and 100% of that came from integration because
yeah,
they had no
yeah,
rental
it was
business, of course.
well. These churches had time to figure things out, and
Yeah.
there was also a lot of them needed to get up to date to be able to stream and other things like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It was a
it's very
changing world.
very busy. But yes, there's multiple people involved in all of these
Yeah.
different companies.
Yeah. I figured there
Um,
might be. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
and it's only, and the whole idea is to keep bringing more into the concert stuff group, you know, umbrella, as far as, like I said, being more of a one stop shop. And so like you mentioned, the festival stuff. We for a long time SES did festivals, and then we got more into touring and a little less into festivals. And festivals take a little bit of different mindset about how you package your gear, the crews that you get, everything. Especially now because there's so many people that carry gear
yeah.
for these festivals. It's a lot more work these days than it used to be, where everybody walked up and played on the same drum kit.
Yeah.
Um, and so that takes kind of and that's what reason I was bringing that up. Is like integration. Both take a kind of a different mindset than, say, your typical SES production
Mm.
would. So the biggest thing about all of it is giving not just a few of us, but everyone within the company the tools to work with, so that if someone comes to them and says, "Hey, I have an event," and you go, "What do you need?" And they say, "I need everything." You go, "Oh, well, we have everything."
Yeah.
Let's.
Yeah. It's an easy
I can
answer.
say that, except for catering,
Yeah.
and I don't think we'll get into that
Yeah.
end of it.
But if an
But
artist does come and say, we just need buses or we just need trucks or whatever,
oh yeah,
you'll still do that. Yeah.
oh
No,
yeah,
it's an
yeah.
interesting business. So the festival business does what?
It's mainly based on being able to cover the festivals. In other words, we may pull from two or three different companies that we have, alliances with, to cover, let's say it's a multi-stage festival. And so we need to divvy up the love amongst a few different companies.
I see.
But it gives us this outlet where everybody's crews can work together. We can flow really smooth. Like I said, festivals are really turning into major concerts these days,
Yeah.
and it's just a lot more detailed work, a lot more crew that you have to think about where you put them, how you get them from point A to point B. Um, it's just a lot more legwork 24/7 to make the festival run versus, say, what we do in rehearsals. And then we get, once you're out of rehearsals and the tour's on the road, it's just kind of
Yeah.
set it and forget it,
So it's like a
and
specialized project management company
exactly,
that
exactly.
the
And that's
specialty is
exactly what it
festivals.
is. You
Yeah.
you have people that take on those roles to, put their arms around the big picture of it, and then bring into the festival all of the different possible entities that we can offer.
Yeah.
um,
So it's like an
which
integrator.
again,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it makes a
yeah,
lot of sense. I mean, it because usually there's so many people involved, and there's
right,
not necessarily one group who's responsible for pulling it all together. So makes a lot of sense. I like it.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think we covered all the companies, and I like the name. Who came up with the name Concert Stuff?
Jim did. He It's kind of funny how he did it. We, as much as those of us that are older, um, we love to mentor and teach the young ones, because they definitely don't have the benefit of the education we got in the early years.
Yeah.
At the time, we had a person that was handling website things and stuff, and they were having a little bit of a discussion, maybe a little heated, about website names and things, and I think the young man was just wanting to show that he was very smart and talented, and was expressing that, well, it's just not as easy as you think. And Jim's like, "Sure it is. Type in Concert Stuff Group," and he does, and the name's available. And he's like, "Yeah, get that name." And that was
That's hilarious. That's
so, it was the old guy teaching the young guy that maybe sometimes it is just as easy as just,
yeah.
apply a little bit of common sense and let's get on with
Well,
this.
and
And
Concert Stuff Group isn't really like a brand that you're going out and
no,
promoting. You're promoting the individual companies, not necessarily that
it's
overriding brand.
to me, it's just where we keep everything,
Yeah,
you know,
that makes sense.
and that way. From certain promoters that would definitely grasp onto this quickly would be like, I'm calling Concert Stuff Group, and they don't have to worry about getting into the details of which branch of it.
Yeah.
It's just that's who handles this
Yeah, you
because
guys figure that out. You guys figure out which branch of it needs to do what.
yeah, and that's what because just like with the stages and roofs, there's all sizes and shapes, and they all obviously have come with different cost and requirements. And it's a lot better to help somebody put some, an event together based on what is available
Yeah.
at the time. And so that's where it comes in really handy to know that, okay, we need one big stage, but three little ones and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
You don't have
And
everything
it's
right there at
yeah.
that building though, do you?
No, not yet. Some things are going to be moving in to other buildings that are being built.
Yeah.
Um, most of the staging is just down the road from us in Mooresville, North Carolina, or in Tennessee, closer to Nashville.
Yeah.
Um, the trucking is still in Winston-Salem, which was our original home base.
Right.
We're in the metropolis of Moxville, North Carolina now.
Don't know where that is.
Well, it's
Mooresville I
only
know really
about
well because my son's a racing driver and he
oh, well, there you go.
grew up
Yeah,
going to the kart track there in Mooresville,
yeah,
GoPro, which I think it's called something else now, but it used to be called GoPro.
yeah.
And
That's all racing country right there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's a fun place.
Um, well, Moxville is about 15, maybe 20 miles west of Winston-Salem,
Okay.
directly on I-40. We're maybe a mile from I-40. So as far as transportation goes, it's great. But it's a nice little town with great people. We love it. Um, any of the artists that we have so far that have come and used our rehearsal space, they fell in love with just the cool small town vibe
That's cool.
of everything.
Yeah,
and
that's
and
kind of
so we're
like
hoping to do much more with rehearsal
yeah,
spaces and stuff as well, so that we can, ultimately, much like the Rock Lidditz model, which
yeah.
again, in a little cornfield town,
Yeah.
with that makes
Well,
chocolate.
or a
Uh,
slightly smaller scale version of that upstaging in Sycamore, same thing.
yeah,
Little
yeah,
small cornfield town. Uh
yeah. That's basically what we're going for in Moxville.
yeah.
Um, and again, it's kind of that one-stop shop. So at some point, most of well, I know all the transportation, which includes buses, they will relocate to the same property where SES is now. We're going to have to expand the building to make room for
Yeah.
more gear,
Yeah.
and the same thing goes with our current rehearsal space. We'll have to expand into something bigger as well. So those are some future projects.
So hopefully that building behind us on the screen here is on a huge plot of land.
There's a lot of land. Yeah,
Yeah, good.
yeah,
Good. Yeah, so you can build whatever you need to build. It's just
hmm
money, time and money.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
all it is. It's really, you can fix it if you just throw enough at it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you've just done something that I was a big fan of. You hired Jason Alt, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
really like Jason a lot. I have some relatively recent history with him that he could tell you. I probably won't talk about it here on the air, but I really like the guy. Like he's just a super smart dude. He loves making systems work properly. He's so nerdy when it comes to all the gazintas. Like this one goes into
hmm
this one and stuff. I love how the guy thinks. Like I just think he's a super smart guy.
Yeah. For me personally, it's been great. I don't, I never claim to know everything. I'm still learning every day. I still read manuals. I still watch tutorials, trying to learn new gear every day. But obviously I've handled a lot of gear over the
Hmm.
year, much
Yeah.
much like Jason has, and so I always tell some of the folks when they're in the shop doing things, I'm like, if you got questions on any of this stuff, I can probably tell you how the wrong way to do every bit of that.
Hmm.
And I mean that in the sense of let me just go ahead and stop you so,
Yeah.
so that I can show you the right way to do things. And I love the fact that he comes from that same type of mentality
Hmm.
of, let's do it. Let's not worry about the 200 ways there are to do it. Let's just do it the right way that we all can live with.
Yeah.
Um, it's very nice to always have people that think on that, what I call that common sense
Yeah.
type of
It's not so common.
thinking. Well, it's not, and I attribute a lot of that to some of the younger folks on the fact that, like I said earlier, they just haven't had the experience. But there is no real history for them. I mean, even there's some great schools teaching great production stuff now, but they're not telling you where this stuff came from. They don't have time to dig into the history like we do. And so having people like Jason that get that same big picture view. Someone can send me an equipment list or a needs list, and it doesn't take me long to dissect the whole thing and figure out here's all the parts and pieces. And
Hmm.
that's what I love about what I see him doing
Yeah.
is that it's exactly that. It's like, oh, it's this event, and here's what we need to do. Now it is up to us, just like every single event. We always want to go by what the client is asking for. We definitely want to help service the needs, and do everything we can possibly based on their wishes and wants. But also, we have to interject a little bit of wisdom sometimes,
Yeah.
and that's another great thing that I've watched Jason do so far is
Yeah.
to talk to people and say, yeah, that's good, that's good, that's good, but here, let's do this instead.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think that's really important because it's the relationships that you build through
absolutely.
and that's, if there's any one thing about SES in general, it's going to be relationships. I
Mm.
mean, we've got multiple artists. When you name those great stats that you named,
Yeah.
um,
Crazy.
there's a lot of those artists that are not just into double digit years of relationships, but some, approaching 30
That's wild.
years of that.
Well, I
And
know for sure
and
Hootie and the Blowfish, you guys have been doing since the beginning of time, I think.
this year is the 30th anniversary
That's
of Summer
insane.
Camp with Trucks Cracked Review. And of course, we were there 2 years prior to that. So
Wild.
for us, it's 30 plus. But it's the same thing with, Leonard Skinnard, who's still out there doing it, Joyce Meyer Ministries, Franklin Graham Ministries. The list goes on of people that it's building those relationships. And taking you back to Jason, that's exactly what I see his ability to do is help forge those relationships and in new people,
Yeah.
that because sooner or later we need new people too. We need the ones that have only been around 1 or 2 years that were working towards those 20-some year relationships.
No, but I
And
think the special
yeah.
talent that he has is a little bit different. Like, I agree on the relationship thing, but I've just seen him, sit and calmly watch, three or four things roll in or whatever. And you
Hmm.
can see that he's thinking already about how am I going to piece these together? Like, how does it all
Right.
fit together? Because that's what's important to him. It's not how pretty they look. It's not what brand name is on them. It's not any of
Hmm.
those things. It's how are these four things going to work together successfully and not cause the client a
Yeah.
bunch of problems.
Well, I understand the nuts and bolts of anything like that. I still think is a huge important part that we can't teach enough of it to younger people.
Yeah.
I see how so many people these days. I'm seeing people that are actually apprehensive about running a console, whether it be audio or lighting. It's just like, well, I'm fine just flying the PA every day, and it's like, yeah, but don't you want to mix a band too?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't you want to kind of dive into this? And I get it because they never had to do it before. They started in the industry once we were so segregated into our departments and the breakdowns of our departments that they weren't the person that had to go do everything.
Yeah.
And I think that, and that's part of that, like I said, that big picture view,
Yeah.
which will, Jason definitely has. You have to be able to look at something and go, well, here's all the things that are going to make this tick. And whether or not your job is flying the PA or your job is running the console, you should both know how to do the other jobs too,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's how you're going to truly understand what the nuts and the bolts of this are.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny you say that because I grew up a musician. I know how to run a console. I could mix a band if I
mhm,
needed to, and I knew how to do it and how to make the kick
yeah.
drum sound real good and how to make all the different and the effects rack and stuff. Put me on a digital console now, I wouldn't know anything. I wouldn't even know how to turn it on, let alone make things happen. All this Dante stuff and all the built-in. I don't get it. I just don't know
Well,
how
I
to.
have to stare at them a little bit, but what I still do, when I see a new piece of gear roll in the shop, I definitely make a time where I can just go, I'm just going to need a little bit of time to just go through this thing.
Yeah.
And I do. I still have to touch it. I got to push the buttons. I got to watch it work.
Yeah.
I want to see. I want to see where things go from input to output.
Yeah.
Um, same thing with lighting consoles. I don't claim to have a special need to just for one type of lighting. They all spit out DMX, so learn how to make them all do that.
Yeah.
Um,
What is your main
but
console? Is it MA? You guys primarily use MA?
yeah, primarily MAs,
Yeah.
and of course a lot of people jumping over to three software now,
Yeah.
and yeah. So,
Finally.
but
Finally.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
it took a while,
Yeah.
but yeah, primarily that's the number one console that anybody would use.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
but but thinking through a system of, I was with a couple of folks the other week that I was helping put something together, and I said, okay, now you just need to go over your checklist, and they're like, well, where's my list? I said, well, it should be in your head. I said, let's just start with what do you need first,
Huh.
and they didn't understand what I meant. Well, you need to say feeder, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
you got
That's a good
time,
starter.
power. So
Yeah.
I walked through the ABCs with them, and got them to where and then they went to the show. One of them sent me a text and said, that really helped putting the list in my head. And and again, I think that's the biggest thing about getting people like Jason and a few other folks that we have, in the department head type roles, of being able to really mentor and mold a lot of folks now, a lot more than it had to be years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the shows are so much bigger
so,
now. I was talking to somebody about
oh
this
yeah,
yesterday or something. Like, you remember when we were selling moving lights and there were 40 on a show, or a big one, or 24? Oh, it was David Milley. I had
yeah,
David Milley on the podcast, and we were talking about that. Like, he started with, I don't know, 12 IntelliBeams or something, and next thing you knew, he had
hmm
24 of them. And that
oh
was
yeah.
that was good enough for pretty much any country artist. 24 IntelliBeams and a bunch of par cans. Now, I mean, like, doesn't the average show have hundreds of moving lights these days?
Oh yeah, I don't really sit down with a lot of them and count up everything, but definitely the numbers always range over 100,
Yeah,
and these are shows that might be playing smaller markets,
yeah, yeah. It's
um,
incredible.
to some
It's
others.
incredible.
So yeah, it's the same thing with the video gear we were talking about. I
Yeah,
mean, we've watched it over years. There was a time when only the biggest of big shows had video,
yeah,
and I'll watch you know things go out the door that are more video heavy than anything we're doing. We've got clients that will take out video screens before they'll take out a PA.
mm. And it's
And
funny because I completely remember,
yeah,
the two, like, Barco rear projectors and two
yeah,
screens above the speakers or whatever. I mean, it was just like not that long ago, and now all of a sudden it's just become such a different thing. So
It's
yeah.
big. It's big league. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what are you thinking on like, so live events obviously have changed a lot since, not just since COVID. Like I think COVID definitely played a role in how much bigger they are now. I think, when you start to take something away from people, I think it just created this frenzy for, I better go see this concert. It could be the last one.
Hmm.
But the other thing that has happened is just the growth. And again, COVID helped drive this too, the growth of these artists on social media, and the fact that many of these artists now have 5, 6, 10 million followers on social media. And I've referenced it a bunch of times before, but Rapino, the CEO of Live Nation, says, our job is easy. All we have to do is sell tickets to 5% of their followers, and
Right.
that's a huge number of tickets. And so do you see it continuing to grow? Like he seems to think that we're still sort of at the infancy and it's going to keep growing. I find that a little bit hard to believe, especially when, there's nowhere to rehearse right now and venues are booked
Yeah.
solid for the next 12 months. And so,
Well, I I definitely agree with the growth. Um, and part of that is you can just go and look and see how you can go back and look pre-COVID, how many tours were in stadiums, in NFL and MLB stadiums throughout the United States or the world, as far as soccer stadiums, whatever. But
not very many.
major stadium size shows, there weren't. There
Yeah.
just weren't.
And now everyone is.
Now everybody. I mean, it's just
Country
expected that
artists are in stadiums now, which is
yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah.
And they're in those facilities because that many people are coming to the show.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
So
It's true. Yeah. The appetite's
yeah,
big.
so I mean, they're not in there just for the sake of saying they did it. They sold the tickets. Um, so yeah, if that's that 5% in that sense, well, that's great. Because if it's only 5%, well, next year when this tour rolls out again for another stadium tour, well, there's another 5% waiting
Yeah.
to get
Exactly.
tickets. And
No, exactly.
and so yeah, based on that theory, yeah, I absolutely think the growth is there. I think you bring up a great point about rehearsal space, um, production in general. And when I say production, I'm not just talking about gear. I'm mainly talking about people.
Yeah.
Um, it may become a challenge to do some things like that. Um, but I also see a lot of these artists that are going into venues where multiple days are just a regular thing now.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. If you would have told me
the
25 years ago that Metallica in 2024 would be playing 2 nights in stadiums, doing two different
Exactly,
shows
yeah.
on the 2 nights, 2 different set lists and stuff, I would have been like, hell no. We had Dan Brown on a couple weeks ago on the podcast, and we
Hmm.
were talking about that. It's just mind blowing. The size of these shows just keep getting bigger and bigger. It's crazy. It's wild.
Yeah,
It's fun.
and I think some of the things that you might see is a lot, not just more stadium based events, but if we can find the people and we can find the production and get these tours out here. The other thing that we're already seeing it, but I think you'll just see more and more of it. I felt like as a culture, we had all become weekend warriors, and I know tours had for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, but people are selling out Monday and Tuesday nights now.
Isn't that
There's
incredible?
people are going to sold out arena shows on a Wednesday.
It's
So
incredible.
that's like it was when I first started. That was the norm back then. But that's also back when you had artists that would tour and play 5 nights in a row or 6 nights in a row,
Yeah.
which most artists now that would be heard of.
Well, it feels
And
like we're going
and
back there right now. Like it feels like,
well,
we're going to see
absolutely.
more of that. We're going to see more of these residencies, and we're going to see just,
And that was the other part I was going to say. The residencies are just going out the roof with great talent, and obviously they're selling the tickets and making the revenue that they expect.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's only going to grow. I think you might see more and more because of this. That's what I was talking about earlier about the festival uh, details. Is that festivals are just popping up out of nowhere. It seems like there's just festivals everywhere, and I think you'll see a lot more of really really big, high name festivals that just keep popping up around the country
Yeah.
to help service this as well. But yeah, for an artist to go out and say I'm going to play a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night sold out, I don't know that that was necessarily the case a few years back.
Yeah. No,
And
I think you're right. I think you're completely right. Like, one of them that I keep seeing popping up is the Billy Joel at Madison Square Gardens.
yeah,
Like how many dates has he done at Madison Square Gardens in the past couple of years? Just wild, crazy, nuts. The appetite
yeah.
is just unbelievable. I mean, you got to have people who are going to see him multiple times. Like this can't just be, all individual visits. These are people going to see him. Oh, let's go see him again. It's
Mhm.
it's it's April now. We last time we went was February. Let's go again. But
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, it's obviously fantastic for our industry. It's just like if I was in your position, I just don't know what the hell I would do. Would I keep building bigger buildings, expecting it to continue growing 25% year on year, or would I just I don't know what the heck I would do. It's this it's
Well,
a
I think you definitely go with the flow, but there's also there's there comes a time when the bucket gets full.
yeah
And yeah, I mean, we have not hit that yet, but sure, it's possible. And one of the things that you know keep it from being that way right now is the reality of some of us are getting older, and that includes the artist as well.
yeah
And so some of those artists that we have these long-term relationships with, well, they may not do as much anymore. They may cut back,
yeah
and or worse yet, retire. But it's the thing of that's where getting in right now with a lot of the younger artists, like we try to do on the ground level and work with them on the way up. Um, I think that's keeping a good stream of that coming in. I don't think you'll run out of big shows because some of these people go straight from playing the opening to the opening to the opening slot on festivals and just small bar music venues to the next night they're in a football stadium.
yeah. No, it's totally
Yeah,
true. Totally true. I mean, I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm seeing the exact same thing, and it's I don't know. Like I said, it's fun. I'm happy I'm in the industry. I'm not, I wouldn't be happy if I was a consumer, out there buying tickets right now. And like he seems, that's the other thing Rapino says is that the average ticket price in the market is still only something like $68 or something, which I don't know what tickets those are because I haven't seen any, but
Well,
everything,
it's a big market.
everything seems to be over $100 though, pretty much. Right.
Well, maybe the things that catch your attention right away,
Yeah.
but it's a big market,
Yeah.
and
That's true.
I just work closely with a music venue in Winston-Salem that just is owned and operated by some friends of mine who I admire greatly. They have 1,000 seat capacity,
Hmm.
and when they first opened a few years ago, well, having that once or twice a month capacity hit the numbers was, or even get close to it.
Yeah.
Um, they're averaging that every week now.
Jeez.
Uh, Yeah, and
Wild.
I'm just like, hey, this is my little hometown. I'm proud that we got something that can do those kind of numbers. But that's the kind of thing where you're looking at those other ticket prices you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean,
I
even
think I
just
was happy to know that the people came back as hard as they did.
that's amazing.
Um,
Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah,
Well, because there was a part of me that was worried that people would be like, I don't want to get around other people again,
yeah,
Uh, but no, I mean, they're more rabid than they were before. Like people just want more, 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 whether it's EDM or country or anything. You know,
Yeah.
Motley Crue in a stadium, you know, anything. They just have such a huge appetite for all of it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm happy you said all that stuff because I agree with you completely. I think, you know, it is growing. It's exciting. I just, you know, the pessimist in me always wonders, like at some point, does it just go, you know, and grind to a
Yeah.
slowdown or whatever? But I don't see it. Like again, as long as the artists have 10 million followers on social media and keep growing, you know, I don't know. I think it's gonna stay
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
It's going to be interesting at some point, I guess. The only factor you bring up there is like there's only so many NFL stadiums.
Hmm.
So yeah, there might be some little bit of traffic, gets
Yeah.
bottlenecked on some
Well, the other problem
on
is
something sooner or later.
most of the stadiums that are out there today, and I'm not just talking about the U.S., but especially Europe, were not built for concerts, and so they sound like
Right.
crap. And and so I think if obviously this is here to stay, I think we're going to see some new stadiums popping up to accommodate this, or at least some
Yeah.
evolution to the stadiums that are out there because they don't sound very good. Like if you love a band, I don't think a stadium is a great place to see that band because not just because you're a
Hmm.
distance from the stage and you know your vision, because they'll figure that out by creating such a great show that it doesn't matter how far away you are, but the sound, like to me the sound
Yeah.
just isn't the same.
Well, I think for a lot of people, I'd love to see the look on people's faces, like at the Luke Combs shows, when some of these people are 300 plus feet away,
Yeah.
and the excitement is there because they're getting a great experience. They're taking it all in.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's the thing that's important about these shows, and from a design aspect, you have to think about that. When you're putting together a design, you got to think about. I got people that might be 400 feet away.
Yeah.
What are they? What's their experience?
Yeah.
I'm
More
fortunate. I get to
lights.
sit at, yeah, I get to sit at front of house. I usually get a good seat no matter what.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I think that's the other part is really where are we going next? What's going to be figured out next to make this stadium experience that great? Because you are right, some of them just don't sound good.
Yeah.
But again, not saying that's okay, but as long as someone went and had a great experience.
Yeah. Well,
I've always been that way about shows in that sense of I don't want to hear. I don't mind it if I hear it, but I don't like hearing someone just say, "Oh, the sound was great. Oh, the lights were great." I just want to leave and say that was great.
yeah. Well, you and like in Europe, you read a lot of the reviews on a lot of the stadium shows, and they'll say it was terrible. The band sounded horrible, and no, the stadium sounded horrible. The band was fine. You know, it's just you got this big concrete bowl that was made for soccer, not for you know Metallica or Motley Crue or whatever.
Right.
You know, the other thing, like talking with Dan Brown from Metallica a couple weeks ago, he talked about because they do in the round in stadiums. And so that's just a whole nother set of complications because where you hanging stuff,
Yeah.
you're not hanging anything. So, you know,
Yeah.
build these huge structures or towers. Like you can't just do the clamshell thing for every single show like you did or whatever. So you gotta be innovative.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
he's come up with some cool ways to do it with those big towers. But yeah, so are you?
But I think things like that aid to the experience of it. Just Garth Brooks shows were like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Jim got a Parnelli Award. That's pretty
He did.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well deserved
Yeah,
for sure. And it's one of those things where I was speaking to some folks that night afterwards, and they were talking about it, and they said, yeah, they said, I guess we were joking about the fact you had to be 70 or over to get one.
Yeah.
Um, and they said, "Yeah, you still got some years to go, but you'll probably get one." And I'm like, "Well," said, "I seriously doubt that will happen, but I definitely take a lot of pride in knowing that the one he holds in his hands, I was there for about 99.9% of it all,
That's true.
and
Yeah, that's pretty
that's good
cool.
enough for me."
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
one of those
just
things where, even like your business partner, your wife, your kids, sometimes it's every bit as rewarding and even more so watching them get a reward than it is getting one yourself, uh, or an
yeah,
award. Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
And I know, the things of watching the testing and the playing around with things and trying this and trying that, just the creative process in itself, which to me, that's the part that I always tell everybody. I hope that no one ever loses about being in this industry, is that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're doing and what the job title is. You got to be creative with it. You
yeah.
have to. You can't lose the sight of that
Yeah.
and just say, well, this is the way I always do it, or that no, there's always going to be a time when you have to be creative.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what taking that technical mind of a person like Jim, the creative mind of a person, uh, the experience, the education, and just the wanting to go for it,
Yeah.
all put together. That's exactly what, how these things happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you were
And
there the whole time, and that's
yeah,
pretty
and we
exciting.
just never been people to say no,
Yeah.
to something in that sense. Been a few times when we should have,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is someone and says, "Hey, I had an idea. What about this?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's figure it out." You know,
I like that. Are you excited about anything outside the industry right now, or
um,
any new
as far
hobbies?
as
You buy a Harley and you're traveling
me,
across the country, or flying airplanes, or jumping out of airplanes?
um, I say every year when it comes about the time for another birthday, um, this is the year when I play more golf, and this is the year when I play more music. Um, I'm not sure I'm at that year yet, but I will say that I've gotten to play golf more times this year
That's cool.
so far than I have in the past few. Now, I think the biggest thing that I look forward to, honestly, is working with all the young people.
Yeah.
Um, I would never be that "you kids get off my lawn" type old man,
Yeah.
as much as I see the looks on some of them's faces, and instantly when they look at you a certain way, you're like, okay, you need a little help and guidance.
Yeah.
And I am so proud of some of the folks that worked years and years ago, and have been there for a long time, and I watch how far they've come. Yeah, and they'll just look at me and say, "Well, you taught me how to do it," and I'm like, that's probably the best thing I could take away.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that.
I lost my father just last year,
Sorry about that.
and and that was I think that was the biggest eye-opening thing about it. Was I was meeting and people, and they were calling me to just give their condolences, and they would quote me quoting my dad, and I said, "Huh, I guess I do that a lot."
Hmm.
And I thought, but that's a good thing.
Yeah. Sure is.
So, so it was really very heartwarming when I was talking to one of them recently, and he's like, he says, "You taught me everything I know, and I just appreciate that." And I go, "Well, my thing is, I want everyone to learn, and I look forward to the day they're getting Parnellis for doing something that was better than what I did.
Yeah.
I'm, or getting the acknowledgement for being better
That's really
than what
cool.
I've done." The biggest thing I tell all of them, though, I said, "You got to keep at it, because I'm still learning every day. So I'm still getting better than you every day a little bit." Um, but most of them are whizzing past me really quick, because I see the eagerness in certain ones that want to really get out there and do it. So that just gives me great joy. It really does. Just
Yeah. Well, and that's
to
so
know I can
important, Jeff.
remember.
It's
Yeah.
so important because we're running out of old people in our industry. So, like we're not all going to last forever. We need to bring up really great young people through the industry, and not for our own legacies, but to just keep things moving along, right? Like it's
Oh,
obviously
absolutely.
important.
And that's what I touched on earlier about it's no one's fault exactly, but the fact that we don't have places where we can find enough time to educate from the history of the business up.
Mm,
And I didn't even realize how much of some of that I knew. I came out of this I started as a musician. I was a music major. Um, I just hung out with the design and production people because they were cooler to hang out with.
mm,
And the little things that I picked up along the way, just about theatrical lighting or just hanging out in a theater with them and watching them, put bricks on a rail or tie knots on a piece of hemp and things that they did. Um, I didn't realize what I'd learned
yeah,
until years later when I'm starting to apply some of these things and I go, oh, I actually know how to do that.
that's
And
cool.
and so I think that's the key part is, trying to find the time to give people this history of the industry so that they understand when they push that button on that console and the light pans and tilts and runs into this gobo. Well, guess what? There was a lot of history prior to that happening.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're still just firing a break up through the haze.
Well, do you ever
Well, we did that,
I know it's funny. Do you ever talk
yeah.
about like, well, back in the day, when we had
Oh,
consoles that
all the
were not
time.
digital and we had lights that didn't move, you know? Yeah, you talk
Yeah.
about that a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've shown them pin matrices and things like
Oh,
that, or
wow.
how, oh yeah, some of the museum pieces, I guess, that I still find from time to time, and something I'll see someone looking at it, and I'll just tell them, if you got a minute, let me just walk you through this,
You know what it'd be
and
really cool for every larger lighting company like yours to have a room somewhere in the building where you've got old technology set up, old consoles set up, and you can run somebody through, okay, this is how you did a show, this is how you connected everything together,
okay,
this is how you programmed a desk or didn't program it. It was two scenes even. And now we're going to go to the real stuff, and
well, I think it's very important to understand, like when you're making. I tell this to people all the time when they talk about programming and they're making their color presets
mhm,
and they come to me and they go, can you show me how you make your color presets because I like the ones you have? And I said, I reference gel colors. And they don't even know what a swatch book is.
yeah, or a gel. What's a
Yeah,
gel?
or gel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love those moments when I can sit and teach them, well, this is just the way my brain puts this together versus the way
Right,
you see an RGB fixture.
right, right.
Um, it was just coming out of COVID. You talked about that older technology. I was on a conference call with Joe Bonamassa about designing his. He was going to do a tour, still in COVID a little bit, but he was bound and determined to go out. We had found places we could go,
Hmm.
and he said, "Can you tell me?" He says, "I really want it to be just a power trio, kind of a throwback to the band Cream, and sort of that really colorful parkan look." He says, what do they make nowadays that look like parkans? And I just said, just
Park cans.
parkans. They're the only thing that look like
That's funny.
parkans.
Yeah.
And he said, do you have some? I went, yes, we still have all of ours because I refuse to get rid of them.
Oh, that's wild.
And I put together a floor rig for him that we were going to just take out and use house rigs of the day, but it had real parkans in it.
That's wild.
And I said, I want to go with you. So I designed it, I programmed it, I jumped on the bus and I went with him.
That's
And
funny.
we went and did these dates. And Joe just said, I love it. He said, I love it when these things come on and the energy I feel from the heat. Well, now fast forward 3 years or probably going on four from that, every version of Joe's designs up to what's happening in Europe with him right now, uh, have real park hands in them.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's
Yes,
interesting.
and and we've made some, some change, but it was so funny taking some of the younger ones over to one of our storage facilities and digging out the hampers of lamps and explaining to them what a medium to a very narrow was and how you
Oh
spin the
boy,
bottle and where. Oh, I had so much fun.
that's
just
hilarious. That
just
is awesome.
because they were looking at them like it was just this odd thing from space.
Now,
It was.
Jim, you could have used LED pars.
Well, no, we have some LED pars and they look great. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but they're
it
not a real
needed to be
par
a
can.
Parkan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
So
Trust me, I get it. He's a cool dude
yeah,
too. I love his music. I've always been a big
yeah,
Joe Bonamassa fan ever since
yeah.
he got big. But
He still appreciates my older school approach to music and how I program a show. So
you ever get to
yeah, we've
jam
been
with
working
him?
together. Well, no, he does respect me enough to occasionally hand me his new acquisition and say, "Here, try it out." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"That's way more money than I need to be holding in my
true.
hands. I'll just give it back." But
Yeah.
but it's also the kind of thing where you just don't really pick up a guitar and start playing around Joe Bonamassa. It's
Yeah, I get
you
it.
know,
I
yeah, it's
completely
like
get it.
standing next to Tiger hitting a golf ball. Probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Hey, Tiger, watch me drive this one 220 down the center.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's hilarious. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time today. Thanks so much. It's been
Oh,
amazing
thank
catching
you.
up with you. I'm super happy for all of your success and this great new building. And I'm going to have to get up there and visit you guys and see this place because it looks amazing. And yeah,
Dude.
yeah. All right, my friend. Have a good one.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you.